Well, Election Day is finally here. We're now just hours away from the polls closing for the day. Dr. Lee Hanna, political science professor at Wright State University, joins us live on this very important day for our nation. Lee, let's start, if we can, by reminding folks that the three most important numbers tonight to keep in mind are 270. 270, that's the number of electoral votes it's going to take to become president. Let's also start, I think, by reminding people, kind of every 4 years, a civics lesson, that what's actually happening tonight really is not a national election, but 50 separate state elections tonight. Let's start with that.
Yes, you're right. So the Electoral College was devised by the founders as a compromise. They didn't quite know what the executive would look like, but they wanted states to have a little more power in, kind of reining in an executive. And so the Electoral College gives every state their representation based on their representation in Congress. So Ohio has 16 members of Congress based on the population and 2 senators. So that's how we get to 18. And these candidates end up running for that magic 270. And, before Hawaii and Alaska were in the union, it was, the magic 264, whatever it might be. But now it's 270, and that's the number we'll be looking for tonight.
Lee, as you well know, the winner of the popular vote for president has lost in the Electoral College twice now in the past 20 years. Gore back in 2000, Hillary Clinton in 2016. A lot of discussion. Do you think we are moving closer possibly to a day when the Electoral College will actually be a vestige of the past and this will be totally decided by the popular vote? Your thoughts?
The closest we got was in the 1970s, where we actually did have a constitutional amendment make it out of the House, and it got stuck in the Senate. At that point, about 3 in 4 Americans, regardless of party, were against the Electoral College. They saw it as an antiquated system. The fact that it disproportionately has benefited the Republicans in 2 high-profile elections makes it more of a partisan football. But if the Democrats become more competitive in some states and can start to win the Electoral College without the popular vote, then perhaps you'll get to this period where both parties feel like they're losing, because of the system, and they move to overhaul it. But I think we're still several years away from that scenario.
Lee, finally, of course, this year is going to be different in a lot of ways. We've seen that already. Typically, the first numbers of the evening are a fairly small percentage, but with the heavy early voting we're seeing locally and nationally this year, we're hearing that the first numbers we see tonight could be like 50% of the total votes here in our area. That would be quite a change. So what I'm hearing is it'll be decided early, or it could take days. What are your thoughts?
You're right. There are going to be a lot of numbers that are going to come out early. And, I've been warning people about the red mirages or the blue mirages. If states are reporting absentee ballots first, then it may look like Biden has a huge lead in some of these battlegrounds. If they're reporting voting in person today, it might look like Trump has some big leads in these battlegrounds. And so they're not coming out proportionally like they used to. And so it's important to just, as you're watching, to just kind of be patient and let people who really understand how the results are coming in, explain why the results look the way they do. But some people will try to jump to conclusions, and I just would warn folks to try to, balance yourself with some people that are speaking responsibly.
I think that's very good advice. It's going to be an interesting ride this evening, a lot on the line. Dr. Lee Hanna, thank you for being with us leading up to this election and on Election Day itself. Take care.
Thank you, Mark.